Okay, welcome to part two of attachments, level 11. And today's date is January 30, 2026. And the problem is, I can't tell the difference between a deeply wise, intuitive nudge from the universe and one of my own boneheaded ideas.
Mm, mhm,
And
mhm.
the idea is that you have to be in a position to really surrender to the inner trust. When you get to this level now, halfway through your training, there is a story that's relevant to where you are right now in your training, Tanya. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's a story about this dude, Arjuna, and he's very powerful, and he fell into a big disagreement with some of his relatives, so much that they decided to fight each other like in the days of Braveheart. There's a valley, and
Oh,
on the one side are all the hordes from this tribe, and on the other side are all the hordes from that tribe. So Arjuna decides he's going to assess the enemy. So he gets in his chariot thing and he starts riding up and down the valley, looking at the enemy across the way, on the other side of the valley. How many troops, what have they got, what do they look like? And in the middle of all of this, Krishna, God, that's that blue being dude, appears to him and says, What are you doing? He says, I'm thinking of attacking those people who are my relatives. And God says, Well, do you think you should? And so he gives his reasons, such and such. And Krishna then says, Okay, all right, well, all right. You said you think you should, but let me show you something first. So then Krishna opens up heaven and shows Arjuna heaven for about 5 minutes, closes it up, and then says, What do you think you should do now? Oh, I don't think I should attack. So the thing is, it doesn't matter whether he attacks or not. What matters is his motivation for having done so. Is it a righteous anger? Is it a vindictive anger? Does he feel he's doing the right thing? Because if you, as a healer, are motivated to do some healing work on someone and you see a demon and you feel the right thing to do is to take that demon out, then that's what you do. And you're doing a double healing. But it could be that when you are assessing someone and they have a demon and you hear in your spirit no, then it's no. This is where healers get caught in the fascination of their work. I must take out all demons. I must go. Well, there's more to it than that. So God's going to appear to you and give you kind of a third chakra thing of your conundrum or your confusion
Mhm.
or your dilemma, and he'll say, "Oh, well, what do you think you should do?" "Oh, I think I should do that." Says, "Really? Well, let me show you heaven." "Now, what do you think?" "Oh, I don't think I should." "Well, why?" And so you give your reasons why not. It only matters that you feel within your heart what is the right thing to do, because the right thing is not always the logical thing, but it is the right thing.
Mhm.
So when you, as a healer, you took morals and ethics, right, for a whole level, and you come to the place where somebody is possessed, you have to decide as a healer what you feel is the right thing to do, not what Joe thinks is the right, what you think is the right thing to do. Now, the thing is that there are a lot of dark forces
Mm.
in the astral dimension and the physical dimension. And there's a saying, when Kevin Spacey was in a movie called The Usual Suspects, he made this quote. He said that the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was to convince the whole world that he didn't exist.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember that.
And so this actually comes from around 1864 from a French poet. And the thing is that there's a lot of evil going on in the world. And there's a lot of people who are possessed. Moriyama said, possession is more common than you think it is. I mean, if you go to these old wood cuttings out of Europe, they would show a holy man coming to a place where it's infested with negative spirits. I mean, infested. So this is where you put on your robes and you say, okay, I'm putting on the robes of a healer. Well, once you stick your head up out of the trench, you see them, but they see you. So if you come along and you say, okay, well, I'm a healer, they know that. And they're going to resist you. The difference between tube attachments and this level is these entities can recognize you.
Hmm.
They can resist you. They can even attempt to enter you. So that's where the rubber hits the road in this type of training. This isn't just feel good, oh la di da, but it's more to it than that.
Hmm.
So there's a difference between light and darkness, and I know you've heard that darkness is simply the absence of light, but let me explain. The dark forces offer you material wealth, sex, more of a kind of a connection to the material dimension in the accumulation of some kind of physical wealth. Like it might be sensorial wealth, like, oh, I've got all these great clothes. It might be material wealth, like I've got all this money. But the power of the light offers you spiritual growth, love, and evolution of your character, which is the sublimation of the ego. That means the overcoming of the ego, the dissolving of the ego. So you could still be someone as Tanya who has $520 million in the bank and be completely of the light. It's not the money, it's what is your motivation for having it and what are you doing about it. So there's always a balance of the ages between light and dark forces. And the dark forces can have many people, but of a low level of consciousness. But the forces of light, they can have very few people, but a very high consciousness. And that's what you're seeing right now. There's a lot of people with a low consciousness, very easily manipulated, very easy to fall into the gap of mass media, social media, legacy media. But there's also people like you who are of the light. So it doesn't take a whole lot of them to balance all of that low consciousness. But the thing is, kind of like this story, the story of two men floating in the water because the ship they were on somehow sank. So they're floating in the water. But there's a big difference between them in this respect. One guy is, very poor, very destitute, and the other guy is extremely wealthy and a philanthropist, and a shark comes along. And the question is, which one does the shark eat? He eats them both.
Oh.
Because personality and wealth are not important to dark spirits as much as they are about possessing that person and living off of their fear, living off of their anxiety, living off of their desperation. Like that movie Monsters Inc.
Hmm.
That's a very real thing.
Hmm.
It's a movie about dark forces possessing little children or possessing others, such that they get this energy that fuels their whatever it is, fuels their life, fuels their happiness. But
Yeah.
of course,
Like,
Billy Crystal and John Goodman and all that, and They make a cute little movie, but it's really kind of accurate. For every level you reach, Tanya, there's going to be a demon there waiting for you.
Mm.
And this is something Dr. Moriyama taught. It's even in his books. For every level you reach, there's going to be a demon there waiting for you, both literal and symbolic, because you're being tested. So let's go through the definitions. You know them all so well, but I'll go through it. An elemental, in this case, is a negative form of possession because there's many elementals. So we're just focusing on the ones that are negative. An entity is a higher on the food chain than an elemental in intellect and power. A demon is the highest on the food chain of intelligent negative beings. And of course, you know the astral dimension is the next dimension beyond the physical. The causal is the highest individuated dimension. The Purusha is the dimension beyond any kind of self or identity. It's called the dimension of divine beings. Of course, you know what a chakra is by now. And samadhi simply means union with God. So, for ease of explanation, if I say entities, it'll just be a kind of a catch-all to note a whole of intelligent astral attachments. So, possession is more common than you might think it is. But someone can also be possessed by benevolent beings. It's not a bad thing, but you can be possessed by benevolent beings. So the idea, as I was giving that lecture just before you and I started working together on this evolutionary emergence webcast, was about being in balance. You know, let's say you're a surfer, and there's only two things required of you. One, paddle, you got to work, you got to catch the wave. But number two is just be balanced. Stay on your board. If you're balanced, the wave takes you for free all the way into shore. But when you're doing this work, especially if you have a tendency to physically take things on,
Mm-hmm.
be in balance. You know, this is a heads up uh, endeavor that I'm teaching you. There's a place in Chiapas, the southernmost province of Mexico, called San Juan Cristobal de las Casas.
Mm.
And in that little tiny town is a place called Museo de Jade, Museum of Jade. And they have several masks in there
Mhm.
made out of jade, which is very precious. But, you know, the Mayans like Lucifer because to them it's luz y fer, light and fire.
Mm.
They like Lucifer in that you can claim something like compassion. You will be tested to see if you are really compassionate. Let me give an example. You say, "Oh God, I'm praying for strength." So what does God do? Put you in weakness so that you can be strong.
Mm.
So when the Mayans like Lucifer, they're just basically saying, if you claim something, you're going to be tested to see if you really are what you claim you are.
Mm.
If you say, "Oh, I took Dr. J's training, I'm a healer,"
Mhm.
and then Spirit's going to come along and say, "Okay, okay, sure, let's see. Let's find out." So, again, for every level you reach, there is a demon there waiting for you. It means you will face your own illusions at each level. So when healers training starts, and I caution everybody, I said, if you take this training, your stuff is going to come up. Just like Darren, one of my dear graduates, he was in the same group as Bev,
Mm.
and we had a graduation party, and then at the party, everybody could speak if they wanted to. And he speaks and he says, "Oh, Dr. J," he says, "I know you said our stuff would come up, but you never said our shit would come up." It means that if you truly want to be a really good healer, you're going to face your own illusions at each level. It's just what's going to happen.
Mhm.
But that's why, if you are with me, I have a kind of a way of protecting you and guiding you in the safety way, one step at a time, because you don't take levels like this until you've completed 9 other levels.
Right.
So I know you're ready for this. Otherwise, like I've told you before, if you weren't ready, I wouldn't teach you. So this is where the rubber hits the road. This is not like other advanced levels because you're going to work on removing intelligent, negative beings. These beings feed on fear, anger, negative emotions. There's always the danger of taking on the possession yourself if you're poorly prepared.
Mhm.
So when you're taking an entity out of someone, again, remember I'm using entity as a catch-all phrase, you're actually doing 2 healings. You're healing the entity onto its next level, just like if a baby is born, before it's born, its world was the amniotic universe in the uterus of its mother. After it's born, it's in an entirely different realm. You can't go back. So when you're doing a healing and you're taking an entity out of someone, you're transforming them to a higher level of themselves in a beautiful, loving type way. You're releasing them from a lower level of their being. You're not killing, you're healing. So you're not doing one healing. You're facilitating 2 healings, sometimes more. I worked on a fellow who was a martial artist. He had 22 entities in him. And
Oh
I'll
my.
tell you that story later. But both the person and the attachment chose you in that co-creative conscious collaboration. Can you imagine that? They both chose you. They don't know that. Most people have no idea what I just said. But that's how it works. So, some beings are attracted to and feed on fear, anger, and negative emotions. You, you got to be neutral. No expectations. I'll give you some examples. There was trying to remember this story about Jesus' example of the possessed man. And I can't remember the story real well, but it had something to do with this guy asking to be depossessed. And Christ approaches the guy and goes, "Holy shit, this guy's got a lot of entities in him." So he approaches the guy and he starts to do the healing, and these entities go, "No, no, no, don't take us out. Don't, no, we don't want to be taken out." And Jesus says, "Well, I kind of have to." "Well, why don't you put us in those pigs over there?"
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
"Okay." "So, okay, I'll do that, but you can't be in this guy." "Okay." So he puts the entities in the pigs, and the pigs go mad and run off a cliff. Sometimes negative beings are a lot like athlete's foot. You know what athlete's foot is, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it's a fungus. And the way it spreads, as simple as it is, the way that it spreads is it gets you to scratch it. Because when you scratch it, you're actually making more material for it to consume. But sometimes entities, demons, elementals are like that. They cause you to itch symbolically so that you will feed them and give them what they want. More
Mm.
fear, more anxiety, more rage, more anger. My first experience was out in eastern San Diego. I was a student minister. We're talking probably 1992. And I'm with my other reverends, and we had a church service, and this is out in the woods in a geodesic dome, which was their church. And after the church service, they decide to work on this woman that they said, oh, she is a possessed. And I'm interested, but I don't know from shit. And I'm watching them work on this woman, and here's a damn demon. And it's got like a movie type of tail. You know, that triangular type tail like demons have in the movies. And I was fascinated. And I look at this, and I think, what the hell is that thing? So they took this thing out, and when they did, it slashed me across the midsection of my body.
Oh no.
So now I have to have a healing because I'm like, what the, excuse my language, what the fuck was that?
You're kidding.
So, so, so anyway, they did some healing on me, but that was my first real exposure. Like, holy shit, what's that thing in that woman? And I'm very thankful that my sponsor, Jean, she got a lot of chief energy, so she could handle it. She could handle taking this demon out, but I got slashed.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, 1995, I had a digital imaging business, frame shop, and art gallery.
Oh wow.
And we used these electronic plotters. They're like printers, but they print material that's 3 feet wide by any length.
Mm.
So we would make portraits or whatever, but also we were representatives of the company that made this plotter. And so we went to do a trade show in Honolulu.
Mm.
And in those days, was just 2400 baud modems, no internet. So we were missing a piece of software that made the plotter do its thing, like call it a printer driver, if you like. So we went over to the Chinese Cultural Center there in Honolulu because there was a little print shop there that had a telephone so that they could use the modem to download the program for us. So I met these two, Judy and Philip Lau, and they were Reiki practitioners. So we started
Oh,
chatting.
okay.
They started
Uh-huh.
chatting. And then they're talking to me about how they were working on this one guy who was a martial artist and who entered competitions. So Judy's working on this guy and she says, you have a demon. Is it okay if I take it out? And he says, no. She's
How come
shocked.
I can fight?
And she's shocked.
Right.
And so she says, why don't you want me to take the demon out? He says, because it gives me the viciousness I need to win my competitions. And I was there with my girlfriend at the time, Patty, and we looked at each other like, wow, I've never heard anything like that. Someone wanting a demon to be
Right.
possessing them so that they can win martial arts tournaments. What a
I
trip.
knew it was for fighting. That's what I was when I was working on writing on Monday. I said some people get used to having that entity that when it's removed, they feel naked,
Yeah.
that they've
Well, that
grown in
that's
symbiosis with this
that's
entity.
that's why we got to have another session and finish up this level. But I want to go through this again, this methodology of taking out the what you do with your hands. I want to watch you do it,
Okay.
even though it's so simplistic, but it's really great for technique.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I was in Torrance, this guy who was a martial artist owned an martial arts studio. He was like a sensei, I guess. And he says, "Well, you want to work on me?" I said, "Sure." So I said, "Come on over." So I had a massage table set up, so that way I've got people laying down when I work on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at this guy. He's got his eyes shut. I'm looking at him. He's got 22 entities in him. I'm
Whoa.
going, what the hell is that? He's got 22 entities. So his eyes are shut, Tanya. He
Mm-hmm.
can't see what I'm doing. But the
Right.
moment I started pulling these entities out of him, he
Mm-hmm.
started flipping and flopping on that table like a fish on a dock. Flippity,
Mm-hmm.
flippity, flippity, flop. And by the time I got to 22,
Mm-hmm.
he was exhausted. He was a sweaty mess,
Oh.
but he was clear. This is the
How long did
one
it take you to release those 22 to dissolve them, send them to the light?
better part of an hour.
Oh, okay. So yeah, where are they going? Are they going to be
They're going
transmuted
they're going to the light.
into the light?
Yeah, they are transcending into a higher form. It's a healing.
Mm-hmm.
You're not taking them out and throwing them away. You're not killing them. You're healing them. That's the difference in the deep possessions that I do is it's
Right.
not like the movies. This is all love and healing.
Yeah, when I worked with demons before or possessions, that's the prayer, but I've never been trained. It's just I've encountered, so I did develop something to protect myself. So you
Sure.
don't want anyone else being infected either. So that's the thing. I love that you're sending them, they're transcending to the light,
You're healing them.
higher
You are
level.
doing a healing on them. And this is the story I told you about when I took the second inventory, and then the darn thing comes out and it wants to enter me, and it's inside of me for about 10 seconds. Count to 10 real slow with your finger over a flame. That's what that was like. Not only that, but as I told you in level 9, when I take out a demon, sometimes they leave behind a smell that is just, I can smell it. It's
I think it
nasty.
smells like formaldehyde, like
I,
death.
I don't know. It's just nasty. Yeah, it might smell like death. I smelled death before. Um, oh, you'll love this one. I know you love examples.
Oh, I love Chinese food too.
So when my kids were little, I took them to dinner at this Chinese restaurant. Okay, so I'm sitting here at the head of the table, and my kids are like this at the table. And over
Hmm.
here is a table facing perpendicular over here. And there's a guy there with his family. And I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking, that guy's possessed.
Hmm.
Well, what do I do? Morals and ethics, right? The level on
Hmm.
ethics in healing. What do I do? So I thought about it and I asked for permission and I had permission. So I'm sitting there with my kids and I'm just kind of like this and just kind of sitting there with my hands on the table, being ultra quiet and really cool while the kids are carrying on. And as I start taking the demon out of this guy, he starts hacking and coughing like he swallowed a turtle or something.
Mm.
And his family now worried about him because here he is hacking and coughing, and then he kind of slumped over when I was done, and that was it. But that was, we're in a family restaurant, and I'm
Right.
thinking, what the heck is this all about?
Are we going to be sued? Did you eat the Chinese food? Nope, there's not.
And then, yeah, I was
Co-possessed.
I was working in Los Angeles, and we had a 2 day workshop at this woman's home. And at the end of the first day, we had a different workshop for Sunday. And I told her, I said, you see how the chairs are arranged in a circle?
Mhm.
There's going to be two people that are come tomorrow. They're going to initially sit over here, but then they're going to move over here.
Mm.
And sure enough, Sunday, the people start coming to this workshop of mine. And this young couple, they do exactly what I said. They were sitting there, then they come and they sit over here. And the first guy had a entity wrapped around his bursa up here in the shoulder. And so I said, "I'll bet you can't throw a baseball." He says, "No, I have the problems in my arm." So I took that one out. But as I was taking it out, I was telling everybody, I said, when you take something out like this, because I held it in my hand and my hand started turning ashen. When you
Mm.
take something out like that, first thing it does is it wants to move into everybody else. Because I was being a little bit of an ass when I said that. I said, but don't. I said, don't worry. So I took it out and did the healing. Now I go to the woman, and she's got entities wrapped around her heart. Think barbed wire wrapped around a physical heart.
Mm.
So I start talking to her, and I'm sorry, Tanya, but this woman was so dense. I said, "Do you have arrhythmia?" No. "Do you have a tachycardia?" No. "Do you have any myocardial problems?"
Mm.
No. And then I just look at her and I just wait like this. I'm staring at her. And she says, "Well, I do have some problems with my heart."
Oh,
And I'm like, "Holy shit."
I just
So,
happened that.
so then
But it
I
could have
took,
been the possession.
yeah. So then I took it out of her, and that was that. Do I have any more here?
The Vegas psychic
I
fair.
was in Las Vegas, and it was weird because this was at Cashman Field, and I found out I had like psychic readings on my
Mm.
banner, and they said you can't do psychic readings, and so they said you could only do like healing. I said okay, so I changed my sign to say healing. So towards the end of one of the days, this Asian woman comes sit in my booth. I had a wonderful metal chair for her to sit in. And so she shuts her eyes, and while I start work on her, she's got a demon in her like a freaking dragon.
Oh.
And these demons are high order. They're like the highest intelligence, sometimes more
Mm.
intelligent than people. And she was fine until I started taking this thing out of her, and she started crying and all these tears coming down her face because her spirit knows what's going on. She knows I'm taking this thing out of her.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, long story short, she was fine after that. But these are just some of the examples um, that's important for you to know about that I have encountered, and that's just you know some examples.
Oof. At
But
22, I just, you
well,
know,
look. If you train to be a foot doctor, you're going to attract people with foot problems. If you train to be an
right.
eye doctor, you're going to attract people with eye problems. So if you train to be a spiritual healer who can also depossess people, what do you think is going to come to you?
Lord Jesus, what's the next chapter? No, I'm just kidding. I've already encountered it, so I think I'm not gonna put any energy out there. I'm just gonna stay neutral. But since I've already encountered it, it's not what's the word? A
Not new.
surprise
It's
or a
not
shock.
new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
new. Yeah.
Well,
But then
let's
yeah.
let's schedule a time for our next session,
Okay.
so that we can finish this level, but I really want to go through these methodology steps with you so that I feel confident that you know the actual step by step and you got this ingrained in your DNA. So then I know you're safe when you're doing this work.
And I think it's going back to what you said now that I understand. So for me, one of the messages was to send it to the light of God, right? So
Yeah,
that's,
correct.
I love that,
Yeah,
that's where it goes.
yeah.
Okay. What do you think about Friday the 6th?
Okay, let me stop the recording here.